Welcome to Real Estate Radio Live, an informative and engaging hour discussing everything you need to know about the world of real estate. Your host, Joe Kuchera, provides you with insight and guidance on how to buy, sell, finance, and invest in real estate. He also offers real estate tax management strategies, new construction advice, home improvement tips, and much, much more. And now, to guide you around the world of real estate, here's your host and Real Estate Radio Live team leader, Joe Kuchera.
Welcome in. Good afternoon. Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. Thank you so much for spending some time with us this afternoon. Before we get started and invite my guest in, let me just go through a couple of things with you. Just reminders, you could listen to us and follow us a couple different ways. One is on the radio at KDOW, 1220 AM. Another is if you go to the website online, you could listen to us anywhere during this time period if you go to kdow.biz. Click on that button that says Listen Live. You can listen to us online anywhere during this time, the segment from 3 to 4, Monday through Friday. Also, be sure to download the podcast for those that are busy and aren't able to tune in during this time segment. That's why we have the podcast for those to listen, follow us anywhere that you can at your convenience. You could do that by going to iTunes, typing in Real Estate Radio Live, or you could go to our website, reradiolive.com. Most of you know that the focus of the show, if you've been following the show, is education and information. So for the last 7+ years, we work really hard to have great guests like today, good content information to help you, the consumer, make wise decisions in and around your real estate. It's pretty simple. We'll continue to do that and continue to get the feedback. Thank you for all the support you guys, the listeners, callers, have given us over the last 7+ years. All right, let me invite our guest in today. Is Amy Wan. She is the founder and CEO of Bootstrap Legal. She's an attorney who specializes in real estate syndication and crowdfunding for entrepreneurs across the globe, and she is speaking all over the place about this topic. She's an expert in this topic and excited to share with you, the audience, what she's doing, what she's learned, and how much she's helping thousands of people all over the place really become more educated in this topic, and it's exciting. So, Amy, welcome in today.
Thanks so much, Joe. Thanks for having me.
Good to have you. You got quite a background, quite a resume here. So what I'll do first, if you can, is I'll ask you to spend a minute or so, and just if you could share with the audience your background, education, and then what you're currently doing now, and then we'll get into some good topics about crowdfunding.
Yeah, sure. So, I'm a proud Trojan alum. I went to USC for undergrad, USC for law school. I got my LLM from the London School of Economics, started my career out in the federal government, actually doing international regulatory affairs and international trade policy. And actually, when I moved back to California for personal reasons, I got into the real estate crowdfunding business. So I became general counsel of a very early stage company a couple years ago. That now is one of the few well-known large venture-backed real estate crowdfunding platforms. It's called Patch of Land. After Patch, that I then left to become partner at a law firm that, it was a boutique firm that really specialized in real estate syndication, real estate crowdfunding. And through that process, I began looking at the future, and I started thinking, well, first I was like, I don't know if I can necessarily do this every day for the next 30 years.
Right.
But, when I was at the startup, every time that we did something repetitively, we would automate it, right? And so when I was working as an attorney, drafting these documents over and over and over again, I thought, wow, there's a lot of repetition here, and I feel like there's a way to automate this so that we can bring down the cost for clients, we can turn these documents around faster for clients, and at the end of the day, that means I have to do less work. And so that's what I'm doing now. I left the firm. I started my own legal tech company. It's called Bootstrap Legal. What we do is we create software that automates the drafting of, real estate syndication, crowdfunding, and private equity fund documents. So if a syndicator is raising a fund or a single asset syndication, they're raising money for their real estate projects from passive investors. We help them paper all of that for cheaper and faster than they might be able to get from a traditional attorney.
Very good. Yeah, I mean, automation, I was at the all day yesterday. I spent at the FinTech conference in San Francisco, and they have several of these throughout the United States. And it is amazing. I know a lot of people day to day. We talk about technology, and there's conversations about it, and there's articles about it, and there's, you hear it all the time. But it is amazing what's taking place right now. And sometimes we're just getting little glimpses at it, Amy. And you're talking about what you've done to really improve, facilitate, do the process that you guys are doing, those documents. But every single industry, really, with the use of technology and deploying some of this new technology, is slowly but surely a lot of this stuff is going to change. I think for the most part, I know there's some variances and differences, but technology in general is supposed to, I think, isn't it supposed to simplify really for the consumer or the person, the user, and then, or add additional customer care, in other words, more services. Then, of course, in many cases, on top of that, you're looking for cost reduction, make things simpler, faster, and cheaper, right?
Yeah, so, there's a lot of different camps out there. There's, obviously a lot of people, especially up in the Bay Area, who think technology for technology's sake, right? And they think technology can solve all. I think technology is super powerful, but there still is, a lot of value in human touch. And quite frankly, there's a lot of conversations today about artificial intelligence and, oh my gosh, we're going to automate everything and lawyers and all these jobs. But at the end of the day, at least the state of the AI industry today is that if you can teach a machine to do something many times, once, it can repeat that, but it can't necessarily think creatively. And so,
right.
Our approach is very much a hybrid approach, right? So we have streamlined the process for our users, right? There's a lot of little tiny things in working with a traditional firm that, basically used to drive me crazy. It's here's an engagement letter, and you have to print it out and sign it and scan it, and here's more instructions. Go drive to the bank and stand in line to send a wire. We've kind of streamlined all of that. So we've got digital engagement letters. We have we're integrated with Stripe, so you can pay by credit card. We have a questionnaire that basically asks all the questions that I would have asked during intake as an attorney.
Oh, okay.
And so,
all right.
I would say our system it's less like LegalZoom, more like TurboTax, right? Depending on what you answer, the questions change. And so people take a first stab at that, but they're not doing it alone. There is an attorney, this is meant to be paired with a service of an attorney who kind of, double checks that they've answered the question the right way. And then, the first draft gets automated, and then the attorney takes that and has 48 hours to review and edit and tweak. And, then it's really the traditional attorney process that takes you through to the final level of documentation.
Right. Very good. Well, that gives a good explanation of what you're doing. You're staying busy, and you have quite the process and system and software. I think the best thing to do, Amy, is if you give our listeners kind of the 101 ground level of crowdfunding. Again, this is something people have heard about, been talking about for the last couple of years. I know there's a couple of successful companies. You've mentioned the one that you're involved with. You were one of the early entrants into this where you really dove in, took interest, gained knowledge. If you could just give the listeners kind of just a 101 ground level view, what's crowdfunding, what it's all about, how it works, and how people may get involved if they're interested.
Sure. I'm going to rewind a little bit before that. So before I talk about crowdfunding, I'm just going to briefly define syndication, right? Because it's a term I've used a lot already. So syndication is really just group investment. It's taking money from passive investors, and you're promising them some sort of return on investment, right? Okay. Crowdfunding, I would say, and this is probably the lay definition, not the technical definition, but it's really just a 21st century version of that. So crowdfunding, in many cases is just online syndication. Instead of, a syndicator sitting down and having coffees one-on-one with a lot of investors, you are posting the deal online using new regulations that have come out since the Jobs Act. You are advertising, in some cases, very widely on the internet, your investment opportunity. Sometimes, you're going to get a lot of the investors that you've worked with previously. Sometimes you'll get new ones that you've never worked with before, right? And that whole process now can be done and streamlined online.
Right. I don't want to interrupt you, but we have about 30 seconds to go, so I'm going to have you hold there. And we're going to take a break. And when we come back, Amy, I'm going to have you kind of continue giving that explanation of the syndication, and then we can roll into crowdfunding. All right, we're going to take a quick break. On the line I have for the entire hour, Amy Wan. If you have any questions about syndication, maybe crowdfunding, anything stuff that Amy's talking about, now is a great time to ask those questions. 1-800-516-1220, 1-800-516-1220. This is Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. For those Facebook followers, stay with us. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with you in a couple minutes.
For more information on today's program, visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com.
The world is changing, and so is real estate. It's changing in ways that give consumers more control with more affordable options. So what are your options? Hi, this is Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. I've been on the air educating and informing consumers for over 7 years now. I'm excited to announce that there is now a more efficient and cost-effective way to buy and sell real estate. Our team at Real Estate Radio Live is launching a new program designed to help buyers or sellers like you in real estate, lending and title. That's right, we'll coordinate the entire transaction for you. So you benefit by working with the same team, saving time and saving money. We'll guarantee you'll not only be working with the most qualified, hand-picked experts in real estate, lending, and title, but you will also save a significant amount of money in all three services as well. Act now and benefit from changing the world of real estate. Call 408-838-9060. Go to RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com.
Welcome back to Real Estate Radio Live, streaming live on iHeart, TuneIn, and KDOW.biz. For more information on today's topic or guest, just visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com. Again, your host for Real Estate Radio Live, Joe Kuchera.
Welcome back in. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. Those listening on the radio, online, Facebook, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Today we have our guest online, Amy Wan, who is the founder and CEO of Bootstrap Legal. She's kind enough to spend some time with us today talking about syndication first, and then she's going to get a little bit into crowdfunding. If you have any questions for Amy, give us a call, 1-800-516-1220, or you could always text those questions in, 408-838-9060. Amy, I know when we took our first break, you were just kind of getting into the explanation of the syndication and then going to roll into, I think, the crowdfunding.
Yeah, sure. So just to recap, syndication is basically group investment. Crowdfunding is basically online syndication. So now we're talking about online group investment. And so you can basically do all this on the internet. There are a lot of new regulations from the Jobs Act that have come out over the past, 3 to 4 years that basically allow real estate syndicators and, quite frankly, any entrepreneur who's raising capital to do this in a lot of new ways. So, traditionally, for the past couple of decades, when people were raising capital, they had to do it very quietly, and they had to stick to what we call their pre-existing network, right? Today, that is not the case. There are a lot of new rules, each of which have their own freedoms and limitations, but generally with these new rules, now people who are raising capital can do what we call general solicitation. That's basically legalese for advertising, right? So you've got a real estate deal. Yeah. Sorry, if you've got a real estate deal, it basically means you can, tweet it out, post about it on LinkedIn to your heart's content.
So that's changed, right? Maybe explain a little bit about that, Amy, because that wasn't always the case, right? So are you saying any individual at all, you don't have to be licensed, anybody has a real estate deal, they could post something like this? I mean, is it that simple, or is it a little more complicated?
So it is a little bit more complicated, right? It's not just anyone. It is anyone who chooses to raise under specific regulations. So normally, 99% of capital over the past couple of decades has been raised under a rule called Regulation D, Rule 506B. And that basically said you can raise capital. You can raise it mostly from accredited investors. And, you can take a couple of non-accredited, non-rich investors, but you have to stick to your personal network. Now we have 3 new regulations, each with, each of them let you do specific things, but, all of them generally allow you to go out and advertise. Okay.
Very good. So as that's happening, this has been growing more and more. I mean, there's companies. If someone's interested in this, I mean, obviously you've got a lot of experience. What would your suggestion be to them? Go to these particular websites, educate yourself, read up on it. I mean, because some people, it's just the whole idea, Amy, and I mean, let's face it, we've been doing things so traditionally for so many different years, certain ways all the time. For some, the younger generation, of course, it's automatic. It's just you get out of bed and you grab the mobile device and you do everything from there. But a lot of the people that are investing in real estate maybe are a little bit of the older generation. What's the best way to educate themselves and get them comfortable with this?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, regardless of what generation you are, I think it all comes down to building trust. Whether you're doing that in person or whether you are doing that online, you have to find a way to engender the trust of your investors. But to go back and answer your question, if they want to learn more about crowdfunding, right, there are a ton of blogs that you can read online. There's obviously Bigger Pockets where people talk about it. But if this is something that someone actually wants to do, there are a number of different strategies, right? They could go and put their deal up on one of the large venture-backed real estate crowdfunding platforms. So, there's Realty Shares, there is Realty Mogul, there's so many of them, and they all specialize in different things. They can list with one of the listing platforms. So it's almost kind of like a Craigslist, a real estate deals, if you will, and that's, Real Crowd and Crowd Street, where you're not necessarily paying someone to raise, you are paying someone to list, right? And then the newest trend, I would say, that I've seen over the past maybe 18 months is there's kind of been this emergence of personal real estate crowdfunding platforms. So the cost of making a real estate crowdfunding platform for your own personal deals has actually decreased so much that, there's a lot of white label technology out there right now that you can just plug and play into your website, and it basically allows, it's kind of like Squarespace or Wix for listing your real estate crowdfunding deal, and it's cheap and it's easy and fast. But no matter how you're doing it, I would definitely recommend that you talk to an attorney or get counsel, because you just want to make sure, we're talking about real estate securities here, right? So you want to make sure you're doing this the right way.
Right. Yeah, make sure you're doing the right way for sure. Where do you see this? Do you see this continuing to grow and bigger players and more players? And and just obviously it's not going to change overnight. There's a slice of the pie everywhere. There's different slices. Do you see anything? I guess that's the first question. Do you see crowdfunding continuing to really accelerate and grow in the next couple of years? Is there another component or something to it that may kind of surface as well? Other than personal, you talked a little bit about the personal part.
Yeah, I definitely do. This is a very new and rapidly evolving space. It probably changes by the month or by the week, right? Just in the short amount of time that I've been involved in the industry since early 2014, it's gone places we had no idea it would go. I remember in the early days, everyone was talking about, a la carte investing opportunities. And now, you see companies like Fundrise putting out multiple $50 million e-reads because that's what they've found works best for them. So everyone's kind of, sitting there finding their own strategy. But I definitely do think that real estate of all industries, it's not one that the SEC or the regulators really thought about when they were coming up with the Jobs Act. They were really thinking about small businesses and startups, but it's definitely one of the industries that inadvertently has taken these regulations and just ran with them.
Yeah, they really have. They've done, and it's getting to be more and more, and of course, we talked about technology early on, Amy, and just before we take our next break, which is about a minute or so, I'll just add that don't you think that the evolution of this, before we take our break, is, again, more education and information? In other words, the consumers have the world at their fingertips in terms of going online. Now you have to be careful. Not everything's true, and I think we all know that. And you have to vet through and do your due diligence, and you have to really be careful. There's that part of it, too. But that being said, the emergence of this information that's at people's fingertips, this is kind of the reason why a lot of this is changing. People are feeling more confident, more knowledgeable, more educated. So, all right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to continue our conversation with Amy Wan. Again, she is the founder and CEO of Bootstrap Legal. We're talking about syndication, crowdfunding, and much more. If you have any questions for Amy, 1-800-516-1220, 1-800-516-1220. This is Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. We'll be back with you to continue the live portion of the show in just a couple minutes.
For more information on today's program, visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com.
Hi, this is Joe Kuchera of Real Estate Radio Live. Thanks for tuning into our podcast. We are your go-to resource for all aspects of real estate, including buying, selling, refinancing, building, and legal and tax advice, and much more. You can subscribe to Real Estate Radio Live podcast on iTunes and Stitcher to listen to an engaging discussion about anything and everything real estate. So make sure you get our app, RE Radio Live, in the iTunes store to follow the show.
Welcome back to Real Estate Radio Live, streaming live on iHeart, TuneIn, and KDOW.biz. For more information on today's topic or guest, just visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com. Again, your host for Real Estate Radio Live, Joe Kuchera.
Welcome back in. Thank you for joining me this afternoon. Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live with you 5 days a week, Monday through Friday from 3 to 4. We have our guest on the line, Amy Wan. She is the founder and CEO of Bootstrap Legal. Amy's kind enough to spend some time with us today talking about the syndication, crowdfunding, some of the ways the laws have changed to allow people to do more of these real estate transactions online and legally. Amy, before we go on, there's some more to cover here. What if someone wants to get a hold of you or has questions? I know you do a lot of speaking. There's a lot of different things you do at many different levels at this degree and your area of expertise. What's the best place for them to reach you? Is it telephone or just go to your website? What's the best way for them to reach you?
Yeah, sure. So the website is definitely the easiest way to reach me. If they go to bootstraplegal.com, all they have to do is click on the button that says schedule a consultation, and they have access to my calendar, and, we can book a time to chat for a little bit.
Very good. All right. So what about the any other, you mentioned some laws that have changed. Do you anticipate anything else in the near future or anything that would come up or change that make this even more interesting, or the way we do these transactions online, or this most recent law that you discussed that kind of opened the gates?
Yeah, so there's 3 laws out there today. They are 56C, which I mentioned earlier. There's Regulation Crowdfunding, which lets you raise up to $1 million every 12 months. And then Regulation A+ for the really big players, that lets you raise up to $50 million. Now, there are a lot of discussions going on in D.C. There are certain Congress people who realize that, some of these laws are actually still a little bit cumbersome and not that easy to use. So, for example, Congressman McHenry has been advocating a lot to, make a couple changes that would make these laws actually more widely adopted. Some of those changes include everything from changing the definition of an accredited investor, which is basically a rich person, but it's this threshold, right? There is talk right now about raising the limit of Regulation A+ from letting you raise $50 million to actually $75 million every 12 months. And then, one of the laws that has been talked about a lot, but we haven't seen it take off quite as much as maybe the industry would have hoped, is Regulation Crowdfunding. Again, that lets you raise up to $1 million every 12 months. But, there are a lot of burdens that they ask the person raising capital to jump through. And so, there are a lot of proposals to actually make that process a lot easier. Because, at the end of the day, raising $1 million is actually not that much.
Right, that's true. No, they're not in these days, especially in certain areas where people are used to doing that for really simple reasons. I want to talk a little bit about, all the excitement, the great thing. There's the new innovation, the technology, the laws that allow us to do this. However, maybe speak to just a minute or so, Amy, I think, because this is important for me, and I talk about this all the time. Just because something comes out, a new law, a new regulation, something that allows everybody or different people now to innovate, go online, sell property, whatever it is. Be careful, though, because it has nothing to do. You still want to be very, very careful of who you deal with, who you work with, who you trust. You mentioned it a few minutes ago about how the importance of the human element and trust. And so talk a little bit about the importance of that, because in some of the excitement and hype sometimes of some of this new stuff going on, we do have to be careful to do our due diligence still, don't we?
Oh, absolutely. Due diligence. What you cannot change about real estate crowdfunding or real estate finance in general, whether you have technology or not, right, is you always got to look at your due diligence, and you always need to understand who you're investing in and what the fundamentals of the property or the fund are. I've definitely seen real estate deals where they were giving investors less than they normally would if it were an offline regular syndication deal. When crowdfunding first came out, a lot of people were praising it, saying, hey, we're cutting out the middleman. But, in some sense, as we've seen the real estate crowdfunding platforms evolve, they kind of have become just another middleman. That's one critique. I'm not necessarily saying it's true, right? And then the most important thing is, whenever you're investing in real estate, you want to know who the operator is. And with crowdfunding, you might not have a chance to sit down and have coffee and meet these people and personally vet them, right? But you can look at their track record, right? If these are people who have been doing real estate for 20 years, they're great operators, that's a good sign. If this is their first real estate deal, maybe not such a good sign.
Yeah. What type of things would you recommend people look for? Again, we talked a little bit before. Obviously, do your due diligence. Are there any specific companies or sites that you would say, hey, if you want to cut your teeth, learn, educate, or do something or get started, these are the ones I would recommend? Or maybe red flags of different companies, maybe of things to look for when you go and before you start to invest. Do you have any thought or insight on that?
Yeah, sure. So instead of necessarily pointing your listeners to particular sites that I like or ones that I don't like, because, every single real estate crowdfunding site has a different niche, right? It kind of depends on if your listener likes equity or debt or commercial or residential.
Good point.
Right. The sites I would point them to are ones that are more educational, more journalistic, and can give them a sense of the reputation of the site, because part of what matters is underwriting, right? And some of these sites curate, some of them don't. And that's the ones that don't, you're going to have to spend a lot of extra time making sure you do your due diligence. So one of the sites I love is run by my friend Amy Ippolito. It's called the Real Estate Crowdfunding Review. He actually sat down and emailed a ton of real estate crowdfunding platforms, asked them a lot of deep probing questions, everything from their fees to their underwriting process to their default rates, and he reports and ranks all of them. And, obviously another great resource is just Bigger Pockets, right? If you search the keyword for crowdfunding, there are a ton of threads actually that talk where people talk about their experiences on certain crowdfunding sites, whether or not they're getting good responses, whether or not their deals are defaulting, and that's a good place to start.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, I mean, get the information, the basic information, and start from there. Make your choices, because as you mentioned, I think I didn't really think about. There are a lot of sites that maybe have special models or niches in this space, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, some concentrate on short-term fix and flip debt. Others do really large commercial equity deals for shopping centers where Whole Foods is the anchor tenant. So there's really a wide range. Okay.
We have a minute or so left in this segment. We have one more, but what if someone said, they may contact you, I'm sure they have, if they want to start their own real estate crowdfunding platform? Is that something that's realistic, unrealistic? Does it have to depend on the right person? I know you talked a little bit about how a person could do it now. What types of steps would they take if they were thinking about that?
Yeah, so it is a lot easier today than it was, 2, 3, and 4 years ago. What you need, I would say, is, while you don't necessarily have to be a developer or coder, either you need to be a little tech savvy or have someone on your team that's a bit tech savvy, or, hire someone tech savvy, just to help you with the website aspect of things. And then, you're definitely going to need counsel, but I do think this is a very realistic step today. I've seen a lot of people do it. The only thing I will caution people about is some folks tend to get a little bit carried away in wanting customized design and all these really fancy things, but I want to remind folks who are contemplating this route that the real proprietary value here is actually not the technology, and it is not your website. That's very low value today, right? The real value here is, the trust and the community and the audience of investors that you're able to build and capture.
Good point. All right, well, we're going to take another break, our last break, actually. We're going to come back and continue our conversation with Amy Wan. She is the founder and CEO of Bootstrap Legal, and we're going to continue this conversation. If you have any questions for Amy, We're going to, after the break, we have about 7 minutes in the last segment, 1-800-516-1220, and there is at least one text, maybe two, of questions here, Amy. When I get back, I'll read those to you in the audience. This is Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. We'll be back with you to finish up the final segment in just a couple minutes.
For more information on today's program, visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com.
The world is changing, and so is real estate. It's changing in ways that give consumers more control with more affordable options. So what are your options? Hi, this is Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. I've been on the air educating and informing consumers for over 7 years now. I'm excited to announce that there is now a more efficient and cost-effective way to buy and sell real estate. Our team at Real Estate Radio Live is launching a new program designed to help buyers or sellers like you in real estate, lending, and title. That's right, we'll coordinate the entire transaction for you. So you benefit by working with the same team, saving time and saving money. We'll guarantee you'll not only be working with the most qualified, hand-picked experts in real estate, lending, and title, but you will also save a significant amount of money in all three services as well. Act now and benefit from changing the world of real estate. Call 408-838-9060. Go to RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com.
Welcome back to Real Estate Radio Live, streaming live on iHeart, TuneIn, and KDOW.biz. For more information on today's topic or guest, just visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com. Again, your host for Real Estate Radio Live, Joe Kuchera.
Welcome back in. Thank you for joining us this afternoon as we wind down the show. Just about 6 or 7 minutes left. I have my guest on the line, Amy Wan, who is the founder and CEO of Bootstrap Legal. We're talking about syndication, crowdfunding. Again, one of the things you'll notice on my show is that we will continue to bring you more and more education information, what's going on in the marketplace, what new developments, what new technology, new laws, any aspects of real estate. We don't want to be a show that just simply discusses the market, what the stats are, who's doing what. We really want to bring value to you, and the way we feel like we do that and what we're hearing back from our people and our listeners is we want to learn. We want to know what's going on. We want new ideas. We want to understand if there's new opportunities, and this is one of them. A big topic Amy's talking about, and that's syndication and crowdfunding. Amy, there's two questions I got via text between the last two segments, so I'll read them to you, and then if you could just answer them to the listeners. So one of the questions was, is the crowdfunding and syndication, is that with residential and commercial or both?
Actually, it can be either or, right?
Okay.
With crowdfunding, you're raising capital for whatever project you are working on. Obviously, with residential, because the transactional size tends to be smaller, sometimes the transactional cost isn't necessarily worth it. So I actually find that with residential properties, people tend to do a small fund, right, as opposed to a single asset syndication.
Right. Okay. Very good. The other question was, is there, this looks like a two-part question. Is there usually a minimum investment, number one? The second part is, can you allocate your investments over different properties? Does that make sense? I think that's two questions maybe.
Yeah, sure. So every investment opportunity will usually set its own terms in the paperwork. It's a document that we call the PPM, or the Private Placement Memorandum. So usually they'll have a minimum offering amount and a maximum offering amount. If they raise under the minimum, they have to return the money. But they're not going to raise any more than the maximum, and usually there is some, minimum investment amount. It can be anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000, and then, with more traditional funds, you're looking at a minimum of $100,000. So it really depends on who you're investing with.
Okay. And if someone were to, if you were to look at the successful sites right now, you've discussed a couple of different sites. what are some of the things that you feel like they're doing? I want to share with the listeners, or I would like you to give you a better chance to succeed. Does that make sense? And you made a good point earlier, and I really liked that when you talked about it's not so much about, the magical technology or the way the site looks and feels and fanciness as make sure, you're working with the right investors, the structure, the property. I mean, there's so many things other than technology you need to worry about in something like this, isn't there?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if there's, and I'm harping back to a topic I talked about earlier, right? And that's trust. And it's not just making sure that the investor is trusting, the sponsor of the offering that they are investing in, but to the extent that it's on a real estate crowdfunding platform, those who are maybe wanting to build real estate crowdfunding platforms, or maybe those who are wanting to invest on real estate crowdfunding platforms, what I really like to see is, proper legal structure to make sure that if the platform is not there for any reason in a couple years, that investors are still going to be protected. And I want to see that the platforms are, not too strict, but that they at least have certain standards and guidelines and do some due diligence about who they allow on their platform. Because, a platform where they're just posting deals that are willy-nilly of people who are looking at crowdfunding opportunities, like, oh, maybe this is cheap, easy, free money. That's not who we want to be raising capital. So we want to keep the bad actors out, and we want to keep good quality deals on these platforms.
Very good. We have a little less than 2 minutes to go. So you brought up kind of a point there when you're on the site. I'm assuming that anybody that builds these platforms, they hire or partner with someone like yourself to make sure that the documents are encased, the legal, the wording, because there's so much. The other part of that is the disclosures, the disclaimers, the terms of conditions, all these types of things. Would you just assume, I guess that's a dangerous word, but I guess what I'm trying to say is, how do you know that the platform or the company that they're transacting with that has everything legally kind of buttoned up, so to speak?
Yeah. So, I mentioned a website earlier, Real Estate Crowdfunding Review, and the guy who runs it is actually, he's really smart, and he has actually delved a lot into legal structure. Now, he's not an attorney, but, I've had many conversations with him on what I look for. The truth is, it's not easy, right? But the best thing that folks can do is, the real estate crowdfunding community is still a very small one, and word gets around pretty fast. So if you're able to join one of these communities and talk with other investors, people compare a lot of notes, and people find out really quickly who the good and bad actors are.
Very good. All right, unfortunately, we're out of time. Amy, thank you so much for your time. Very, very valuable. If you want more information, again, you could go to the website. It's bootstraplegal.com. Thanks again, Amy. Look forward to have you back in a couple of months.
Thank you so much, Joe.
You're welcome. Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. Thank you again for tuning in, Facebook, online, and on the radio. We'll be back with you tomorrow. Take care and have a great afternoon.
You've been listening to Real Estate Radio Live. For more information on today's program, visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com. Tune in, log in, download our podcast. Discover more at RERadiolive.com. RERadiolive.com.